says, I still say loving your enemy means don't kill them or torture them in horrible ways. Treat them like human beings, especially if they surrender. But that doesn't mean don't ever hurt or kill them. That's kind of what we've been talking about, right? I mean, did I ever tell you this story? I probably did. I'll tell it to you again because I think it's great. There's one of my favorite saints was a guy. His name was Moses the Black. And he was around the same time as the Desert Fathers. He was an Ethiopian. He was an Ethiopian criminal. He was an Ethiopian. I don't want to say highwayman because that's not what he had. Like a small army behind him, and they would rob caravans. They would attack and destroy caravans and steal from these caravans of traders. He's said to have been a great big monster of a man, like just a mountain. This great big huge, very, very dark skinned mountain of a man. It just brought out the worst in people and terrified others, right? Like he was hitting the bag of chips when it came to being a bandit. Anyhow, the king eventually had enough with this guy, and so he sent the army out. And Moses wasn't stupid either, and so he lost his band of merry men. He lost his band of bandits, his band of violent thieves and crooks, his little army, and he took refuge in a monastery. And the monastery, they protected him. When the army came, when the king came, they said, no, he's under our control now. He's in our protection. You have no right to him here. Sanctuary. We've given him sanctuary. And he was really surprised by that. He was really surprised that these unarmed monks living in this, this little walled town were willing to defy the king and the king's capable army to protect him. And they knew who he was. He was really taken by that. And so he stayed in the city, and he learned from the Monsignor. He learned from the brothers until he eventually wanted to become one of them. And as part of his process, the day came where he had to go out into the mountains, and he had to spend some time in a cave, in contemplation, in prayer, thinking about the world, thinking about his life, thinking about the future, thinking about what it is that God had, whatever it was they wanted him to contemplate. But he was up in the mountains, in a cave, and one night, as he's sitting there by a fire, these two guys came to the cave. They had seen the fire, they had seen the light of the fire from below, and they thought, well, let's rob from him. Well, the next day, Moses showed back up at the monastery, and he had each guy by the leg, dragging them. He had dragged them from the cave to the monastery, and he gets there and he stands in front of the father, the superior, the head brother, and he sort of throws the guys in front of them. He says, I wasn't sure what to do with them. Normally, I would have just killed them and disposed of the bodies, but that didn't seem like the thing I was supposed to do anymore. And so he had beaten them, and then he drugged them to the brother. And again, the brother sort of said, well, you really shouldn't have done this either, but thank you for not killing them. And the two thieves were so amazed that these religious brothers had this kind of sway over this big mountain of a man who could have snapped them in two. That they thought there must be something to this. And they began living in the monastery as well. And they became sort of the entourage of Moses. Now the story goes on. I won't bore you with the rest of what I know about his life, but violence is so easy for us. Violence is so easy. It's natural for us to resort to violence. It's instinctual, intuitional. If someone hits you, you hit back, you lash out, you do whatever you need to do, right? It's like our way. The little animal in us just goes wild. Wants to scratch and claw and punch and beat and bite. And yet, what are we called to do? We're called to rise above. Jesus tells us to rise above our instinct, to rise above our animalistic nature, to be people who are seeking godly ways, people who are seeking to be godly, to give up those aspects of our humanity and to take on things that feel completely unnatural, like feeding strangers, providing for people who you know are just going to waste what you provide, but you provide for them anyway. Visiting people that you know are only in jail because they did something horrible. And yet here we are. Supposedly we're supposed to rise above. It's not easy. Cats and kitties, it is not easy. Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and body. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. If you love me, you will follow my commandments, he says. And my commandment is this, that you love one another as I have loved you. Amen.